Welcome back to another episode of One on One. I'm your host, Mitch Lafon, joined by Talking Metal's Mark Strigl. Good day.
Hey, Mitch. It's another Sunday. How you doing?
Another Sunday. That's right. We're so busy Monday to Saturday recording these interviews that we have to even take up our Sundays to do these talk-ups. So, hey, it's part of the game, right?
Right on, right on. So who do we have on today's episode?
Today, you know what? We're going to do one more triple header before next week. We're going to get back into two interviews or even one. But we're going to start off with BLAZE Bayley, former Iron Maiden vocalist. We just talked to Paul Diano, and then we did a Metal Raps episode where we talked a little more generally about Iron Maiden. So why not talk to the other singer that was in Maiden for a while, Mr. Bayley? Were you a fan of his work with X Factor and all that stuff?
At the time, I wasn't. However, I've gone back in recent years and really think there's some great songs on those records. And I feel in some ways that Maiden, the band and the corporation, if you will, hasn't really given Blaze the respect that he's deserved. And we could go into the exact points, but even like there was a greatest hits compilation that was released, right. And they included nothing from Blaze on it, and they even included songs from the Blaze era with Bruce Dickinson singing them in the live setting, which I thought was kind of just a snub towards him. And we can't forget, his history in this great band of heavy metal, and he really did play a part for them.
Yeah, he kept them alive in the 90s. Yeah, absolutely. And, it's funny that you consider it a snub. In one sense it is, but on the other hand, it's kind of cool that Bruce Dickinson accepts to sing them, because ask Vince Neil to sing a John Corabi song or ask David Lee Roth to sing a Sammy Hagar song, and they just won't hear of it. I mean, they're just not.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
And of course, we just had Gary Sharon on the last episode, and he was talking about not having any of his songs on the greatest hits that Van Halen have put out. So I guess if you're the third singer, there's no luck, right? Third time is not a charm. Let's not talk too long about all this, because it is a triple header show.
Right on.
BLAZE is coming to Canada starting October 10th in Montreal, October 11th in Quebec City, the 13th in Ottawa, 14th in Kingston, and then London and Toronto, 16th and 17th. But let's just sit down, listen to BLAZE talk about his tour and about his time in Iron Maiden. Here's BLAZE. We are talking with BLAZE Bayley, formerly of Iron Maiden, and of course Wolfbane, and the BLAZE solo band and all kinds of. How you doing there?
Good, very, very good. I'm actually naked right now, so
that's how I like to do all my interviews.
I'm enjoying this interview, and I'm fresh out the shower. I wanted to smell good for my fans out there.
Yeah,
they like these Skype interviews. Yeah, my fans like to imagine me. Some of them anyway. Well, one of them likes to imagine me unclothed. Yeah. So that's it.
That's how all my listeners like to imagine me too, quite frankly. So yeah, I understand now.
It is a horror show then.
It is a horror show. Yeah, it's sort of like the Jason or Friday the 13th. Freddy Krueger brought to podcast. Now, in the background there, I hear the sounds of your daughter. How's that going? How has fatherhood changed?
Well, it's an unusual thing, because I spent most of my life putting my music first and going, right, I'm not gonna be in a place where I'm even gonna have pets, let alone children.
Right.
And things changed in my life, and I was with the right person, and we had the same kind of values about bringing up kids, and we were very lucky that we were blessed with a daughter. So that's weird. The hardest part of it is being away, because it's like, well, you actually have a home and you actually have something that you want to go back to.
Yeah.
A lot more you know, before, if it's just you and your partner, it's like you can phone, oh, well, come and visit me while I'm on tour or spend a couple of days with me. But now you always want to go home. And, well, I do. I always want to go home and be with my family. So it's a bittersweet thing in many ways. You have this wonderful experience, which is so rich and varied at home, which you can't even dream what that's going to be like before you have kids. And then you're away from home. And the weird thing is as I've gone on and I've got older, and the further away I seem to get from Iron Maiden in time, then the more people are interested in BLAZE Bayley and what I'm doing. And I'm doing more shows now, and I'm busier than at any time since I left Iron Maiden. And that is quite a spooky thing. At a time when I thought, well, I'll be settling down, you know, people are really interested in me. So that's a really nice thing for me. It's more difficult to go away from home, but now, you know, I can spend more time away because I'm on tour and doing different things.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. You know, we got an echo. But you're coming out to Montreal soon.
Yeah, I'm very excited about coming out to Canada, and I'm going to be doing Montreal, Quebec, Ottawa, Kingston, London, and Toronto. And it's my first time in Canada since Iron Maiden, and I'm so excited about it. And I've been in touch with a band there called Maiden Quebec.
Yes,
and they've been rehearsing really, really hard. And the set list is going to be a combination of some of the songs from my era of Maiden and some of my own songs that perhaps people aren't familiar with, because I've never had the chance to tour Canada. I was invited there by Some of the Few last year for their album release, and I absolutely loved it. So I got to thank those guys from Some of the Few. They just treated me like a king, and I sang a couple of songs with them. And now I'm doing a full tour of Canada. So I'm hoping it's not the last time. I'm hoping it's the first of many trips where I can come and play my music, and I hope that Canadian fans are interested in what I do and like what I do.
Yeah, I think they will. And it speaks... Oh, I've got an echo going on today. It speaks to the power of Maiden, though, the fact that, you know, it's got a sort of a Star Trek effect, that anybody who's associated or touches that band, the fans just stay with you, right?
I think really I'm a slightly different case to the norm,
right,
because when I joined, there were a lot of people who just resented me and actually hated me for being in Maiden, because they blamed me for Bruce leaving, which is, you know, a classic girlfriend problem, where you blame your friend for your girlfriend leaving you. I don't know, whatever. But a lot of people didn't want to listen to me, and it was a very different time for Maiden. The music business was changing. MP3s were coming, and hardware was starting to disappear. CD sales were sat down for everybody worldwide, because, you know, bits of plastic weren't selling anymore. And it was a time when people didn't want, a lot of old school Maiden fans did not want BLAZE Bayley to be the lead singer. And now, 20 years on, there are a few people that saw Iron Maiden with me the first time. And then there are some other people who never saw Iron Maiden with me, but are interested to see what it was about. And now people are much more open to listening to BLAZE Bayley and the songs that I've done. And now my Silicon Messiah album, which is the first album that I did after Maiden, it is doing really well, you know, for me. I'm completely independent. And I'm not in many shops. I have some distribution, but I do everything myself with my wife. My wife is my manager. She does all my bookings. I have a couple of agents that I work with, but I don't have a big record deal. I'm not signed up to a record label, and I won't be signing up to a record label. Every album that I've made since Iron Maiden, I licensed, and now I own them again. It's that long. So when somebody buys my CD, the money doesn't go to a record company or, some anonymous corporation. It goes directly to me. And I use that money to pay my rent, feed myself and my family, and put money away for the next CD or DVD, whatever I'm doing. So people who get on board with me, people who support me, directly support me. And it's not that many people, but they are so loyal. And I'm really excited about coming to Canada and playing there, just like I played in Australia for the first time. There were fans I didn't know I had. So I'm very excited about coming to Canada and doing my absolute best for the fans there. It's been a long, long time that I've been waiting to come back, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Now, the last album you did was a 5-song, and I'll call it an EP, called Russian Holiday in 2013. What's next in terms of new material from you?
I've done a best-of album, which is called The Soundtracks of My Life. That's got 2 new songs on it, and it's 30 songs overall. Some of them are rare ones that you couldn't always get, and the rest of them kind of sum up my favourite songs to play live in the last 30 years. And now I'm working on a DVD to go with that. So it's Soundtracks of My Life CD, and there's a DVD, Soundtracks of My Life DVD, to go with that. That should be out in November. And now, while those things are coming out, I'm able to start thinking of new material. I'm talking to a couple of different people. I have a couple of different people that I write with, and I'm planning a full studio album, hopefully for the end of 2015. And I'm very excited about that. I just have a load of notes and bits and pieces and odd melodies and scraps of music and a riff here and a riff there and a couple of ideas what it will be about. And I've got enough time and enough very long, boring journeys to try and get something together. So I'm very excited about it. So that's what I'm looking forward to. So Soundtracks of My Life really brings me up to date and says, right, this is what I've done. And a lot of times people will come to my show and they'll see my CDs and say, well, which one should I get? And it's always very difficult because I love them all. My heart and my soul is in every CD that I did. So now I can say, get this one. It's got 30 songs and it's a bit of everything. Start there. So that's what I'm doing.
It's a good starting point. So let's talk a little bit about Iron Maiden. Before the X Factor was a TV show on television and stuff, it was an Iron Maiden album. Talk to me a little bit about how the band approached you in terms of the process. Did they say, Blaze, we want you to write with us, we want you to be involved, or did they say, listen?
Well, what happened was they held auditions, and I auditioned alongside everybody else, and I learnt the same songs everybody else learned, and I was very, very lucky that they chose me. Right. I don't know why. My voice is so different to Bruce, but I think maybe that's why. I think I was somebody that was different, but perhaps could bring something to the old songs. And when we started, Steve Harris said to me, nothing is written for the album. We all write together. The most important thing is that it's good. Steve Harris said, I don't care who writes the songs, who writes the music, but it has to be great. And that's how we started. So I was free to put forward as many ideas as I wanted, and everybody did. And six of my ideas actually made it to the album, and another couple of ideas were B-sides. So it went really, really well, and I'm so proud of the music that we did together. And it's a real different part of Iron Maiden's career, because it's a time when things are going more progressive, and the kind of darkness in my voice was something very different. And some of the songs like Lord of the Flies and Judgment of Heaven and Sign of the Cross and Look for the Truth, those songs really are me in a way. I really feel them, and my voice is just a part. It's a part of it, and I still enjoy doing those songs now.
What kind of pressure was Iron Maiden under at that time? Bruce was loved by many fans. Did they say, "Listen, we're just going to make an Iron Maiden album, and it'll be what it'll be"? Did the record company say, "Wow"?
Yeah, that was it, because in the very early years, then they battled with the record company. When Nico McBrain joined Iron Maiden, then the record company said, "We can't have an album like this that starts with drums. We can't have these drums. They sound really weird. We're worried about the fans not accepting it." And that was the time when Steve Harris and the rest of the guys said, "Right, the record company are now banned from the studio, and they were never allowed to hear anything that Iron Maiden had recorded before and ready to press, and they didn't have any input on it." And Maiden really fought hard for that, because when the record company's normally the one with all the money and all the power, and they fought and fought, and they got that. So when we were working on the X Factor, it was, well, we don't know how it's going to turn out. We just want it to be good. And a lot of it is absolutely great. There are some songs that really last on there. Sign of the Cross is a huge, huge song. Every time I go to Brazil, there's no way I can get away without playing Sign of the Cross. And Man on the Edge, people still like as well. So
that's a brilliant song.
There was no pressure from the record company. I think all of the pressure came from just within the band to make something really, really good. And everybody was nervous, except me. Everybody was nervous to see, are the fans going to like it? For me, I wasn't nervous. I was just like, well, I'm Maiden, and it's great for me. That's...
When the album came out...
Long tour, so that's it.
Yeah, it became a long tour. When the album came out and the first reviews started coming in, and to be perfectly honest, right, they were somewhat lukewarm. You weren't getting all kinds of accolades. Was there a sense of panic in the band? Did Steve come to you?
No, there's no panic at all. It's just, well, we just do what we do. That's it. That's the attitude of Maiden, and that's why they've been, at some point in their career, been unpopular with their own fans, but their own fans have stuck by them, because that's exactly why you do stick with Iron Maiden, because they do exactly what they want to do, because they follow their instinct. It may not be what you would have chosen, but it's what they choose to do, and it makes sense for them at the time. So there was no panic like that. It just kept going. And to be honest, the worst reviews were in English. So if in the UK and USA, that's where the reviews were the worst, and that's where the attendances were the worst. But everywhere else, things went great. Okay. In Scandinavia, we played with me in the band and with the X Factor as the album. Iron Maiden played bigger shows than they ever did with Bruce. So that was a real turnaround. They were slagging us off in the UK. The UK press was saying oh, it's all over for Iron Maiden. And we were on our second tour of Spain in 6 months, playing all the not they call it the, you know, there's the big cities, then they call it the B cities, playing to 10,000 people every night, and people are saying it's over. Well, we just ignored it, really.
Okay.
France, we had incredible reactions, the support of the French fans. Oh, it was just great. So it was the reviews weren't great. I think it was so different. But in some places, the reviews were absolutely fantastic. And in some places, it's people's favourite album is The X Factor, which you would think, oh, maybe it would be Number of the Beast or Somewhere in Time or Seventh Son. But no, in some places, X Factor is people's favourite album. So we followed what we wanted to do. We kept going, and we didn't bow to any pressure.
Did the record company panic?
I think they might have done a bit, but I think they did more on the second one, maybe. Because that's, you know, it was after the second one, that's when Bruce came back. And I think they really needed, I think the record company really put pressure on the management to say, we've got to have something here to, you know, to talk about. We can't just have a third album with you, you know, from Iron Maiden with a new singer. We've got to have something. And Judas Priest had a reunion. Deep Purple had a reunion. Black Sabbath had a reunion. All of these people, these big bands, you know, from the mid and late 70s were having reunions. And
Kiss was one of them?
Yeah, Kiss. It was working, and that's what happened. So after Virtual 11, that was it. Bruce was back, I was out, and, you know, in a slightly different configuration to what other bands had done. Maiden had their reunion, and they managed to build on that success.
When Virtual 11, I have a tendency to say X1, but when Virtual 11 came out, and again, there were some of these unfavorable reviews, did the band just say, listen, let's just get back into the studio and make our third one? Or is that really when they said...
No, we were still on tour.
Okay.
We were on tour, you know, it's a massive thing, so it's 9 months when that tour starts, man. It's an intergalactic freight train that you can't get off. It starts moving, and that's it. It's going, and it doesn't stop until the journey's over. So, yeah, it was... I had ideas for a third album, and I had some melody ideas and lyrics and things like this, and I thought, oh, this is something I'd like to work with Steve in, and there's another idea I'd like to work with Dave and Yannick. But no, we finished in Brazil in December, and in January I was fired.
Yeah, how did you take that firing? Were you relieved, or were you like...
No, it was a complete shock.
Okay.
It's a total shock to me. You know, there I was working on lyrics and songs for a third album, which I thought, you know, in my own foolish heart, I thought this is really going to turn things around. Fans are going to see when they hear the third album, and it's so positive with all of these great ideas on, and great live songs. People, the fans are going to go, wow, no, now I understand why Blaze is there. This is really good. But I didn't get that chance. So all of those ideas that I worked on, I kept for myself, and I put them on my Silicon Messiah album. And that was it, really. I think at the time, I was very upset just at the time. I mean, for me, Iron Maiden has to continue. The world is a better place for having Iron Maiden in it. The music business is a better place for having somebody like Iron Maiden in it.
Absolutely.
But I thought I'd be a part of it. So I wasn't resentful, because those guys have worked their whole adult lives to make this thing happen, and they've sacrificed so much to get there that, well, if that's what they feel they have to do to continue, sometimes difficult choices have to be made. So that was it. I didn't resent them for it, but it was a shock, because I thought I'd be making a third album. So it took a long time to recover from that. I got a band together real quickly, wrote my songs, and got them recorded and ready for release on the Christmas. But that was it. There was no way. Nobody was interested in signing me up or anything. And my album came out on the same week as Iron Maiden. So Silicon Messiah was totally in the shadow of Brave New World. And the management and everybody else, they didn't book one single gig, not a tour, not a gig, to promote that album, Silicon Messiah. So I knew then, really, well, that's the real story, that nobody takes me, at the management, nobody takes me seriously as an artist. They don't think I have any value whatsoever. And that's it, really. I'm on my own now.
Was there, you said you weren't resentful, but was there any anger at any time between the firing and now the management started saying, well, you got no value?
That's just a natural. That's just natural. Everybody feels angry. It's stages of grief, isn't it? Right. Anytime you lose something, I'd lost a future that I thought I was going to have. So you grieve over these things. So it's just a natural thing. Sometimes you're angry. Sometimes you're emotional. Sometimes you feel sorry for yourself. These are just natural things that you go through, and you have to endure and experience these things to get to the place where you can accept what has happened and have the value of the experience as a lesson in your life. That's my opinion. And now it's 20 years ago.
Right. So what was the lesson?
It's 20 years ago. So now I'm at the best point I've ever been in my life. I would never have thought that, but now I do everything on my own terms. I work with lots of different musicians. When I make my solo albums, I make the music I want to make with people I want to work with. I have the most incredible, loyal fans around the world, man. It's just incredible. So it's the best. Really, this is the best part of my career as a musician. I'm not trying to be a big star. I'm not interested in playing stadiums. I like to play small places, and sometimes I have to play, places that are a bit bigger because I'm more popular in some places. But really, I just like to get up close and personal. I'm not a rock star. I'm just a singer. I love to sing, and I like to meet my fans. I like to sign and have photos and meet everybody after the show. And that's the important part of it. I just feel incredibly blessed, fortunate. I feel privileged to have the support that I do have. I'm a tiny artist. I'm a cult artist, and there's just a few thousand people that know about me in the world of music or heavy metal even. And but those few people just stick by me so much, man. I'm so proud. And I'm very, very lucky to have such loyal support from my fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me quickly ask you about Steve Harris. He's, essentially he's Mr. Iron Maiden. Tell me about working with him. What was his work ethic like? What was his drive like? Did you learn anything from him?
Well, he's an incredibly generous person in the, when it comes to the writing, always listening to your ideas. He helped me shape a lot of my ideas, and I learned so much from him. I mean, this is a guy that's written classic songs of all time in music, not just heavy metal, but in music. Some of his songs are absolute all-time classic songs, and just as much as Queen or anybody else. So there's a certain level of respect there, and to have the insight into how he's done some of these incredible songs that you've lived with as a heavy metal fan, since you start listening to metal, was just incredible. That was an incredible experience. And those are the lessons, really, that those lessons that I learned from Steve Harris and having Man on the Edge as the first single from the X Factor, that's what gave me the confidence through some very dark times to keep going, because I thought, well, if I wrote all the lyrics and the melody to Man on the Edge, and I was a part of writing, I wrote Future Real with Steve Harris, I wrote Virus for Best of the Beast with the band, so I thought, well, if my songs were good enough to go on an Iron Maiden album, then my songs are good enough, and I don't have to question that. It's just I have to make sure that I keep pushing myself to produce the best work that I can. And that's the main thing that I learned while I was in Iron Maiden, and I just keep going with that. I just try and do the best work that I possibly can and keep reviewing it and looking on it before I release it. And sometimes I'm really happy, and other times I go, well, it turned out how it turned out. I'm going to try again on the next album to create the ultimate classic metal album ever, and that's always my goal, to do that.
Were you surprised after Bruce came back that the band continued to play some of your songs, Man on the Edge being one of them?
No, not at all, because all of that music is Iron Maiden music. It's not like I didn't exist. We did 2 big tours together. We had 2 albums. Both of them sold 1 million. So it's a part of it. It's a part of saying, Maiden have always played something from their first album going right through. So that was it. It just makes sense. You always play stuff from your last album, and you nearly always play like 1 or 2 of the key songs from each album. So it just makes total sense. And it just shows that it was about the music, and that my involvement with Maiden was about the music and all of that. It was nothing to do with, that the music wasn't good enough or anything like that. It was just a reunion. They needed to get people interested. The record company needed to feel that they had to get people interested.
Yeah, and I'm very impressed with Maiden for doing that, because you look at David Lee Roth won't touch any of the Sammy Hagar stuff. You look at Motley Crue, they won't touch any of the stuff with John Corabi.
It's a shame, man. It's very limiting. That is, it's saying, well, I didn't really mean this when I did it.
Well, it is.
That's what it's like. I go back and sometimes, in some places, I've been going a long time in parts of Europe, and I don't play much of my old Maiden stuff because I've already played it to my fans. But in other places, then I play a lot more, and I really enjoy singing those songs. It's a great sense of pride for me that I was involved in that, and I think it's a real shame that for me, I'm a fan of AC/DC, and if they said we're not going to do another Bon Scott song, I think there'd be some kind of revolution.
Yeah,
so that's the way I feel about it. I think it's very limited, But I can't say I haven't worked with those people. I met Nicky Sixx many years ago at Donington, and we had a conversation there, and we got on okay, but that's it really. I met Dave Lee Roth when I was recording my first album in Los Angeles at Sound City Studios when I was in Wolfsbane, and I had a chat with him. I admire his work as well, but really, if it was me, I'd be going, well, it's not that you can't sing these Sammy Hagar songs. It's some of these songs are really nice.
Yes.
They've got a great groove, and people liked them, and the band performed to thousands of people singing these songs. So why wouldn't you want to relive, give fans, just say, hey, remember this one that we used to do? I don't know. I think it's a bit arrogant.
I agree. I mean, I would love to see, Motley Crue do Hooligan's Holiday or Van Halen do Right Now, but, neither here nor there. We had said that we were going to do 20 minutes, so let me ask you a couple more questions here, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay.
Wolfsbane, anything going on? There's been on and off reunion shows?
It's all going on, but it's going on in secret.
A lot of secret.
Yeah, well, we're saving the world. our last album was called Wolfsbane Saves the World, and we are 4 superheroes that get together and use the power of our music every time the world is threatened. So our last CD, Wolfsbane Saves the World, I think you can check us out at wolfsbanehms.com. And it's a really, really cool album. And it's just a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun doing our Wolfsbane stuff. We all live now 4 individual lives, so we struggle to find time to get together to actually make music or even do a gig. But we're always trying to do that, so keep an eye out for us. We haven't stopped. We're just dormant at the moment.
Okay.
And like an angry bear in springtime, we will return yet again to take our share of that spawning salmon.
Okay, so good. So the band's not broken up, and of course...
No, not at all. It's just dormant. We got back together, and that's it. But my solo career is my main thing in my life. I'm a professional singer, and everybody else does different things. So it's just difficult to get the 4 guys together in one place for any length of time. So it's not that we're not doing anything. We are doing something, but we're doing it at a very slow pace.
Gotcha. We'll quickly remind folks that you're in Montreal, October 10th at the Fufun Electric. October 11th, it's Quebec City at La Jetée. October 13th, Mavericks in Ottawa. The Mansion in Kingston on October 14th. Rockpile East or East Side in London on October 16th. And at the Hard Rock Cafe, Toronto on October 17th. And then the last question is... in November 1st, you're at Festival Vouziers in Vouziers, France, and it says that you're up against Paul Diano. It's Blaze versus Paul. What exactly is that?
That's a headline, really, to try and get people interested. And what we do is that we do it's about a couple of hours, and we both do classic songs from our era of Maiden. So Paul does the things from his albums, I do stuff from my albums with Maiden, and it's a really fun show. And sometimes, depending on the level of Jack Daniels, then we sing a song or 2 together at the end. So it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy doing those gigs. So it's nice for me. It's like a little holiday to just go back and just sing my old Maiden songs, and then I go back and do my own gigs, singing mostly my own material. So it's really fun. Well, when I come to Canada on this trip, I'm going to do probably 50% of my Iron Maiden songs, or songs that I'm known for with Iron Maiden, and 50% of songs from my own albums to kind of show fans, well, this is what I'm doing now. I haven't stopped since Iron Maiden. I've made albums every year. I've got 2 live albums, 2 DVDs, and I'm about to start another studio album. So I want to show people that I'm still going, and hopefully people will see that, my work is interesting and worthy of supporting.
Yeah, I certainly think it's worthy of supporting, especially since you're doing it on your own, you're doing it out of a passion, and to me that's honorable, and that deserves support. And of course, if I come out to the show let me rephrase that. When I come out to the show on October 10th in Montreal, will I hear Man on the Edge? Yes, you will hear Man on the Edge. Will I get any tomatoes thrown at me during that song? No. And will it be you that throws them? No. Okay. Montreal fans are very respectful. That is a lie, and I know that's a lie. I can tell with the tone of your voice. So, but if you want to come up with me and sing Man on the Edge, mate, you're welcome to come and sing Man on the Edge, sing the chorus with me. I was on stage at the Montreal, the Bell Center with Skid Row years ago, and sang back up on one song. So maybe I'll take you up on that, but I love that song. It's so great, and Montreal and all of Quebec is Maiden territory. I don't think the band has done better anywhere else than in this province. So you're going to be well received.
Oh, I'm really excited about it, and a huge thank you to all of the fans who've bought tickets already.
Yep.
And I can't wait to get there, and I'll be doing the absolute best that I can. Got a great band together, and I think these are going to be some great shows, and hopefully it's the start of a regular visit.
Absolutely. And I hope that too. And Blaze, absolute pleasure talking to you. So thank you. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you. I'll get dressed now, yeah?
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Bye-bye now.
All right, bye-bye. Cheers.
What you just heard was Mitch's interview with BLAZE BAYLEY. And let's remember that this episode of One-on-One with Mitch Lafon is brought to you by the Melodic Rock Fest 4, taking place October 3rd and 4th in Arlington Heights, Illinois, and featuring performances by Mitch Malloy, Heaven's Edge, Seventh Heaven, Talon. Is that what it is? Talon,
yeah.
Talon, right?
And many more.
Bombay Black and much more. Yeah. So definitely check out the show notes on talkingmetal.com today. In the one-on-one section, we'll have links over to melodicrockfest.com.
Absolutely. And of course, if you can, check out the A World with Heroes tribute album that I did last year, and the A World with Heroes tribute EP that is on iTunes, with all the money going to the Vaudreuil-Soulanges Palliative Care Home, where my wife's father unfortunately passed away in 2013. But we're still donating, and at the same time you get to listen to some great music. Maybe
Absolutely.
Not the best transition here, going from talking about palliative care homes, but let's get right into our next interview. It's with Robb Reiner of Anvil, and of course people know that he's the drummer, and Anvil is heavy metal, and we're expecting to talk about metal and Anvil and all those good things, but we're actually going to be talking about painting. Robb, for those who may not know, is an artist. Did you know that, by the way?
I had no idea. No idea.
And this interview is put together because he's coming to Montreal on September 25th to have the Robb Reiner Silent Metal exposition, where he's going to have all his paintings and tableaus, or whatever you want to call it. And he'll be there for the opening on the 25th, but the thing's actually going to run for about 2 or 3 weeks after that at the BBAM Gallery, or the BAM Gallery on St. Jacques Street. And we got to talking about that, but I did ask him a question about Anvil and how popular they had been before the movie came out, and I sort of suggested that they weren't as popular as they could have been or should have been, and he disagreed with me, and that led to a little tense moment in the interview. So I think folks should definitely perk up their ears, as Judge Judy would say, put on your listening ears, because that was a little interesting moment. But overall, great interview, fun band. And have anything to add about Anvil? I mean, again, you're American, we're Canadian. Were they as important to you as they were to us, or?
I mean, I think they were on an underground level. People who were in the know and going a little deeper than what was being pushed by the corporate machine down here were able to discover Anvil. And look, I mean, guys like Slash, Lars from Metallica cite them as such an important band, an influential band on what they did. So definitely, they have a big place in the history of hard rock and heavy metal.
So why don't we sit back, listen to Robb talk about his painting, his place in metal, and of course our little sort of tete-a-tete moment.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
Here's Robb. We are talking with Robb Reiner of Anvil. Good day, sir. How are you?
Awesome, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and when we talk to a member of Anvil, right away we think, well, we're going to talk about the music, the new album, the tour, and all that wonderful stuff, but we're going to talk to you about painting. Explain.
Explain. Okay, well, as many do know now, as it was exposed, I guess, years ago through the Anvil documentary.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm not touring, I paint. I'm a painter. I've been painting since I was 8 years old, actually, but I got seriously into it when I was in my 20s, and I paint. That's what I do when I'm not smashing metal. I'm smashing canvases.
Yeah, you're smashing canvases. So now you're coming to Montreal on September 25th for this silent metal exposition. Are the paintings all related to music, or no? Obviously not, right?
No, actually, they're all related to me personally. Every painting, what I do is, most of the subjects that I choose, I select them when I'm on tour. I take photographs of buildings and interiors and the kind of things that I like to paint, and I compile the material that way. And then when I get back to my studio, I select things and make little thumbnail drawings, and I decide what's going to work and what's not going to work. There's one painting it's a famous painting that was in the movie. It's called Left Behind. It's of a Robb or a Reiner drum kit from years ago.
Right.
That's not the only one. I think there's going to be 13 canvases that are going to be shown at this particular exhibition. But no, they're not really music related at all.
Now, are these going to be items that are going to be for sale, or is it just really sort of like you come in and have a look? This is not you're not selling anything here, are you?
No, absolutely not. I don't sell my canvases. I've had, obviously, over the years, ridiculous amounts of offers from fans and collectors to buy them. I'm not in a business to sell the canvases at this time, but I am in the business of wanting to show them live and in color to the folks.
So what got you interested?
There'll be other things available there. I do have art calendars, and I'll have drumsticks and some Anvil merch. We'll have that kind of stuff, but the actual canvases are not for sale.
What got into it? Why? Well, first of all, why not? But also, what got you interested in painting?
Well, I started when I was 8 years old. Okay. That's a really good question. I don't know. I think it's something I've always had in me as a little kid. For whatever, I can't really explain it. I love to paint. And the real thing is, until the movie came out years ago, I never told anybody, unless you're in an inner circle or a close friend of mine, you would have never, I never talked about that I paint. So nobody ever knew. It was something I didn't really talk about. And the director of the movie, Sasha, dear friend of mine, he convinced me to expose that other half of myself.
Which is very smart.
In the movie. I was reluctant at first to do that, just on the fact that I knew what that would result in down the line. People would see the paintings, they would like them, then they would like to buy them, and then it would just turn into this whole thing. If I started to sell them, then it would turn into a business. Like now I'm painting because I'm making money with it, and I wouldn't enjoy it. I enjoy painting because I do it for myself, and there's no pressure. It's only for me, and that's really why I paint.
Yeah, so other than that, if I can, let's talk a little bit about the music with Anvil. Famously you had that documentary that was made about you, and of course the band has a resurgence since then. How did they approach you about making a movie? Because essentially at that time, the band was in complete disarray. I mean,
that's not true, and that's only perception by people who are not actually educated in the reality. Well, the band was completely.
Well, I take offense to that because I am educated in the metal world, but it did appear that Anvil had dropped off the currency.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Well, it appered that way.
Okay.
In some sense, yeah. In the mainstream, yes. Well, in the underground. We've been rocking all these years, making records and doing very well at that. But in the mainstream, the awareness was not there. The movie changed everything by chance, really. That movie has been seen today by over 100 million people worldwide, and it's not stopping. That thing is forever.
And
that's forever.
Just the other day, last week, Howard Stern and Robin Quivers on that show were discussing it, and I was like, holy Christ, wow,
No. It's a masterpiece of work, and it's a testament to many things, and it's a template. It became a template that many artists after the fact have tried to copy, follow, and make movies of their own. It actually changed the music industry in a way where it was like, well, if you don't, an album's not enough. Now you have to have an album and a movie.
Yeah. So what was the brainchild of the movie, though? Like, who came up?
I'll tell you. Sasha Gervasi is an old friend of mine, an artist, whatever. We met him in England in 1982 when he was a 14-year-old kid. That's where we actually met. He was a huge fan of Anvil and even a huger fan of the drums of Anvil, Robb Reiner's drumming. He's a huge Robb Reiner drum fan. Mm-hmm. And he came to a gig in England at the Marquee way back then. He was a little kid, and he befriended me, basically. You know, I thought this kid was really cool. He was different. You know, the way he spoke and the stuff that he was talking about was just not like a regular fan, if you will, you know? I knew he just had a special sparkle about him. And we became friends. That was pretty well it then. And we saw each other, and for 7 years, we were buddies and so on and so forth. And he actually got him to, come on the road with us when he was a kid, to set up the drums, sell T-shirts, that kind of stuff. And then he disappeared from 7 years of friendship to he just went into what happens. He's from England at the time. Right. So cut to 2005, and all through those years, 20 odd years, whatever, Lips and myself, we always wondered, whatever happened to that kid? He just dropped off the face of the planet. So 2005, with the internet and all that, we get this email from him, going, "Hey man, you guys remember me? And if it's you guys reading this, would love to, catch up with you guys again." So we did, and we found out through that first initial, getting reunited again, that he became, a Hollywood big time screenplay writer. He's working for Spielberg for a bunch of years at that time when we met him, and he had, The Terminal. He had some pretty big hit movies already under his belt. We were blown away. I mean, it was like, holy Christ! That kid actually ended up doing wow. He did well. You know what I mean? So, and what happened was, what sparked him to write us the email was he was listening to a Metallica record. Nice. And he just started thinking to himself, "Well, man, these guys, this band, this sounds like my old buddies Anvil. Holy Christ!" And then he started thinking about it, going, "Wonder whatever happened to the Anvil." So he went looking on the internet and saw, "Holy Christ, these guys are current, active. They got tons, many releases. They're touring around the world." So he got in touch with us. That's basically how the initial, reuniting happened. Right. And then after getting together and talking and stuff, he just came to the table and said, "Listen, guys, I want to help you. I don't know how, but I want to be, I just want to do something." So he says, "How about, I'll make a documentary movie about your band." That was it.
Why do you think it appealed to so many people? What was it about the message or the story that people could relate to?
Oh, well, I think there's many, many levels, many different things. Well, first of all, the movie's really not about metal.
No, it's not.
Okay, so that right there. It's a people movie. It's a slice-of-life movie, which everybody can engage in. It's a very emotional journey. Lips, more than myself, he wore his heart on his sleeve. Sasha said this right at the beginning, was, "Listen, you guys are," and this was, this is him looking at us saying this stuff. He says, "Listen, you guys are very special people, and, if you can be yourselves, this movie will just totally, he believes this story will take the world by storm. Just, you have to be yourselves." So that was easy to do. That was there was no challenge to that. So we were just ourselves, and they filmed the movie for 2.5 years, and they captured, everything. But what I believe, why everybody engaged it, I think because it's so real, it's so true, it's so poignant, and it shows everybody, hey, don't give up on your dreams. Have a best friend in life if you can. Family, dedication to family. Those kind of energies, I think, really, really sparked a big chord with most humans.
Yeah, it really was a good empathetic story. You really could sort of relate that, we've all had our struggles in life, and it sort of says, if you just keep going, it'll turn around.
And the other thing, it exposed was, that Anvil never failed at nothing. The music business failed us.
Yeah, it did.
And that's the cut and dry of all of it. And you could talk to virtually anybody who is in the industry, and they'll all say the same thing. The music business failed the band, period. And that's what the movie kind of shows a little bit, or exposes, saying, hey, listen, these guys have been rocking all along, and the music business fucked these guys over. Okay, granted, we're not the only band that's happened to, obviously. Right. But, we were lucky enough and fortunate enough to have that, we were chosen to show that, we were willing to show it. We were not shamed or felt bad about, hey, listen, this is what the real world rock is, and we're going to show everybody that it's not just so glamorous that everybody thinks it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm sure the result of everybody watching this surprised you. I mean, you probably did it and said, well, listen, our fan base will watch this and good for us. And then all of a sudden, like you said, 100 million people, and you go, oh, okay, wow.
Well, those numbers are like of today's standard. But back in the day, I was the only one. Lips knew right away that this was, it was a miracle. Like Miles Goodwin from April Wine told me just recently, says, you guys got one up on me. You've had a miracle. I'm still trying to get one. That's what he said to me.
It's a good miracle. I want to talk to you about 1983 for a second. I was at the Montreal Forum, and I went there to see Aerosmith, and Anvil opened up.
This was at the Forum in Montreal?
Yeah, and as far as I remember, Bryan Adams was also on that bill. How was it opening for Aerosmith? I mean, you had that tour back in '83. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Well, it was from what I can remember, it was a great opportunity. Well, we had the same manager as Aerosmith at the time, so obviously that's why we were on those shows.
Okay, David Krebs.
Yeah, David Krebs used to manage our band back in the day, and he put us on those shows because he could, right? So that's how that came about that way. To most people, Aerosmith fans and stuff in general, obviously nobody knew who we were. We were just this new. We were ahead of our time with the kind of metal we were doing, and the whole thing, the whole design of Anvil, it was well ahead of its time in its day. So the people that were there watching it, a lot of them just didn't really know what to make of it. I think it was my memory of it. We made fans, we made a lot of fans. But there was people that walked away, just going, what the hell was that,
Yeah, I don't know if I went, what the hell was that? But I do know, thinking Anvil came on first, and you did what you do, and then Bryan Adams came on in blue jeans and a white shirt, and then Aerosmith came on, of course, missing two of the guys, Joe not being there and Brad not being there. And so the whole night I just went, wow, this is sort of weird. What is this? Because, we went from Anvil to Straight from the Heart to whatever. Anyway, it was an interesting night, but I'm glad I was there. How did you meet David Krebs? He was sort of the big-time manager. Where did you meet him? How did you...
Well, it's a very, very simple process. He heard our music, he was completely blown away.
Okay.
And he recognized that, the sound of this band is the future to come.
Okay.
And he was absolutely right, because, Metallica came right after us doing exactly the same thing.
They did, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what happened. He just heard our music and said, "Hey, I want on board. I can help you guys. I can do this, that, and the other." That was the initial thing. But when he went to go with Forged in Fire, the record at the time, when he went looking for those big American deals, it was just too much. It was crazy. In 1983, our sound was just too ahead of its time. And in 1984, when Metallica did the same thing, it was completely cool.
Yeah, but that sort of seems to be what happens with Canadian bands. A lot of Canadian bands seem to just always be on that cusp. But great stuff, great career. A couple of years ago, you played Heavy Montreal, which is sort of sort of the only heavy festival in North America. I mean, there's Wacken and and Hellfest. There's all kinds of stuff going on in Europe, but in Canada and the States, that seems to be the only one. And I'm just sort of curious, I know you've played the European ones. What was your perception of that festival? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you want to play it again? How important is it to metal in North America?
Playing Heavy Montreal was awesome on every level. We did the band did very well there. We made a lot of new fans. That's for sure. And compared to the real mother festivals like Wacken and stuff, obviously it doesn't compete,
right,
on any level,
right.
But I don't think any festival can, unless it's just you cannot be. That's the mother of all festivals, Wacken.
Right.
But my memory of it was a great festival. I would do it again in a heartbeat. We did Toronto Heavy. They did a Toronto Heavy I think the following year.
Yeah, well, they had them sort of coincide back to back, and Toronto did 2 years of Heavy TO, and then disappeared.
We did the first one with Slayer, Motorhead, and all the bands, but it didn't. The whole thing just didn't do well in Toronto. They didn't get enough people out to support it.
Yeah,
and that's right. That's rightly so, because obviously Quebecers are far more with it than Ontarians when it comes to metal.
They really are. If you look historically, the number that always crops up is 7 out of 10 heavy metal records are sold in Quebec, and then the other 3 are sold between, Ontario and Vancouver, like spread out throughout the.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. So, Quebecers in general are just more hip to culture, arts, rock. They're just, it's just a culture there. It's just a lot. They're more with it. But the more closer to European tastes, if you will,
Absolutely. And, of course, that brings us back to, speaking of culture, it brings us back to the art exposition that comes up September 25th at the BAM Gallery. Obviously, I guess fans are invited to come and meet you, get a picture, get an autograph, and all that wonderful stuff, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what's going to happen. We're there to meet and greet. It costs nothing to get into the gallery. It's going to run for 12 days. I'm going to be there on opening night, and according to the curator, it's already, it's a small little gallery. He says it's going to be a lineup on the street to try to get in. Anyways, that's what I heard recently. So sounds like it's going to be a good turnout anyways. That's
going to be great. Now, and of course, you got some dates coming up in October. In Ottawa and other places, not in Montreal, at least not that I can see.
No. Well, we're not. We're going to tour Canada properly and extensively next year. We're just doing a few off shows here in Ontario. We're actually going to Japan, Australia, and New Zealand, and then we have a full European tour that finishes a couple of days before Christmas.
And new album? What's in line for new material?
Well, we're still touring Hope and Hell, which is, I guess it's our latest record. It's not that new anymore, but
right.
It did very well in general for us. Our new album is in the can. We just probably going to record it next year. It's written.
Okay.
It's all finished. We just have to pull the pin on when we want to record it. That's about it.
Okay, and that'll be probably 2015. Rob, absolute pleasure.
Awesome, man. Thanks for talking to me, and thanks for supporting the arts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've already Facebook and tweeted the little pamphlet that says when and where the show is, and of course we'll put this up. And I encourage everybody to go out and see it. It's nice to see another side of a musician and get to see what the other stuff that you do. And the paintings, from what I've seen, they look great. So
I appreciate the kind words on that. Yeah. There's fans growing for the art.
Yep, there you go. Thank you, Rob.
Okay, buddy.
Bye-bye now.
Yeah.
So there you have it, Robb Reiner of Anvil. Did you enjoy our little tense moment for?
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Listen.
Gotta love that.
Gotta love that. I think it's fair to say that before the movie came out, they weren't an arena level band. They weren't on everybody's radar. And listen, I think I know what I'm talking about when it comes to most metal. So anyway, so we've done Blaze, we've done Robb, we've gone real heavy. So we're going to pull back on the third interview, and we're going to talk about the Babys. Of course, popular in the early 80s with John Waite singing for them. They are back with a new album called I'll Have Some of That. It's a decent album. It's a fun album.
Cool.
It's well put together. And so I sat down with John Bisaha of the band. And one of the reasons I want to get this out just before October is the NHL season starts in October. And John Bisaha wrote and performed back in 1992 or 3 or 4, whenever the Mighty Ducks movie came out, the theme song for the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, or the Disney movie, The Mighty Ducks. And of course, it became the theme song for the team, the Disney-inspired NHL team. So we also talk about that and how that came about, and how his song became this anthem for an NHL hockey team. And therefore, what a great time to do it just before we ramp up that season. And, as a Canadiens fan, watch my Canadiens win everything this year, while the Rangers and the Leafs and all those other crappy teams that nobody cares about don't. You a big hockey fan by any chance?
I'm not a big hockey fan, but I go to the Rangers game maybe once every 2 years, and
okay, I
can tell you, people definitely care down here.
All right, I can respect the Devils as long as you don't tell me you're a Rangers fan. We're good.
Yeah, I'm not like a super big hockey guy, but I probably lean a little more towards the Rangers than the Devils, which is, I know I live in New Jersey, but I don't know. It's actually easier to get into Madison Square Garden than it is over to wherever the heck the Devils play. They used to be at Izod, but I think now they're in Newark, right? Yeah, they're in Newark. That's where they are now. They're at the, I think, Prudential Center in Newark.
Yeah. Well, hey, there you go. So let's talk. I'll have some of that with John Bisaha of the Babys, and that concludes our triple header. Always fun doing this. Of course, don't forget to check out the Melodic Rock Fest.com. Don't forget to check out the A World with Heroes EP, and of course the full release on iTunes. Don't forget to check out Talking Metal on iTunes and on Spreaker. And what else are you on?
TuneIn and Stitcher.
Right. Yeah. And of course, don't forget to check out One on One, either on iHeart, iTunes, Stitcher. I put up the stuff on YouTube especially when there's video to go with it, like there was with Connie Bloom.
Yes.
So here we go. Sit back. Cool. John Bisaha, the Babys. Enjoy. Thank you very much. We are talking with John Bisaha of the Babys. Good day, John.
Hey, Mitch. How you doing today?
Good. Very well.
Excellent.
And I'm excited to hear new music from the Babys and to see that the band's back. I remember, years and years ago when I was like 12 or 13 walking around in Florida at a mall, and the Babys were big, and then, of course, getting all the Hit Parader magazines and seeing all the pictures and posters. So it's certainly nice that the band has been revived and that they chose you as a vocalist.
I'm tickled pink about it, and I was just like you. I was about 16 years old when Broken Heart dropped, and that's when I was first introduced to the Babys, and I did the same exact thing. So, welcome to the club.
Yeah, and it's a pretty good club to be part of, right?
I'm having a great time with it. The songs are great, the guys are great, and we're having a great time playing them, and we had an excellent time producing and creating the new album. It's been a great time.
So let's talk about the new album. I'll have some of that. How did that come together? Did the band, did they bring the music already done and said, hey, just throw some vocals on this? Or were you actually actively involved in the creation of the music?
Well, it was a little mixture of kind of all of that. We had it was a whirlwind 2 months to get the whole thing done. Excuse me, sorry about that. We knew that we had an album in us that we wanted to put together, and when we got together last year and put Not Ready to Say Goodbye, we penned that one in a weekend, and in a whirlwind weekend we went and recorded the whole thing and, got a bunch of studio people in and did all the horns and the background vocals and all that good stuff. We knew that we wanted to really kind of be viable and create a new album. After we'd done Not Ready, we started playing out a little bit, so we debuted the song And then we, wanted to get our feet wet trying to see if we could, be viable again playing live. So we played about 5 or 6 shows up through the end of November.
Right.
And then took a little break for Christmas and wanted to hit it at the top of the year to create a new album. Just before we did that, Wally, who was living in Florida at the time, was kind of commuting back and forth, decided, hey, it's the time for me to make the move. So he flew back home, right around Christmas time to Florida and started packing it up to do a long cross-country road trip. And he got back in, I think, February 1st. So between the time that Wally had left, just prior to him leaving, we started sitting down and saying, look, we really want to start, getting the album laid out and put together. We'd everybody brought in songs. So Joey brought in a bunch of tunes.
Right.
I brought in a few songs. Wally, when he was still in Florida, right around when Not Ready was first starting to get written, he had sent out some CDs. So it was a bunch of snippets of CDs, maybe about 30 or 40 songs that were just his,
right.
just instrumental tracks. And then there were a bunch of Tony and Wally tracks that they had done, for the first 2 or 3 years after the Babys had broken up. They would go to Tony's studio and do more instrumental stuff. So it was a kind of a combination. I mean, on this album, you've got, new songs that were written 2 weeks prior to, album being tracked, to stuff that had been in the vault of Tony and Wally's from 25 years ago.
Wow.
And those songs, we kind of dusted them off and, rearranged a few things, and then I just put some lyric content to it, and away we went. But, Joey wrote, a great major portion of the album, and I wrote, pretty much the rest of it from a lyrical perspective, and we just kind of begged and borrowed from our old songs. I had a few laying around, Joey had some, and like I said, Wally and Tony had some as well. Yeah. So it was kind of the trick was for us to be able to try to take songs that were, just created to songs that were, tracked 25, 30 years ago and make them all seem cohesive, and that was the big trick. So I think we got it done.
Yeah, I think you got it done too. Actually, it's a very enjoyable collection. Now, let me ask you a little bit about the former vocalist John Waite. You come in and John has a catalog behind him and some of the most memorable lyrics like "Missing You" and stuff like that. What pressures are on you trying to replace John, or do you feel any pressures at all?
Oh yeah, when I was first going through the audition process and when I was first selected, that was, I kept being, Tony would be very, very cautious and, kind of let me know, hey, you're going to be in for it, guy. So, get some thick skin because not everybody's going to dig hearing a new guy, especially singing baby songs, especially since John's got that staple voice. For me, I've always loved John Waite, so I'm a big fan. Like I said, a huge fan of the Babys back in the day. And, if I wanted to go and say who my top, in my top 5 vocalists are out there, John would be one of my top 5. So I was very, privileged to be able to sing Babys tunes and to be part of this.
Yep.
The pressure started to kind of alleviate after we started doing some shows because, here's when I kind of found that, I think I'm going to be okay before our shows were going down. It's really actually just before I'd had my final pick, my final audition. We went and did, basically, I think I had 5 or 6 auditions, and we were auditioning Isn't It Time and Head First. And every time, there were 3 or 4 of us at the end that kept going back and back. And, through that whole little mix, at the very end, Tony said, hey, I want to videotape you guys, and I want you to do each of those 2 songs 2 times straight through. No cuts, no punches. I just want to see if you can handle the song from start to finish.
Right.
And I want to do it twice, and I want to videotape it. And I said, Tony, you're going to sit down, you're going to throw these huge cans on me, and you're going to put a Neumann in front of my face. And so, I'm going to be basically doing like a Celine Dion in the studio, trying to emote without being able to perform a song that you're telling me I need to sing and track, no punches.
Right.
So here's what we do. After we're done with these 2 tracks, why don't you give me a 58 and a cable and throw me in front of your drum set and let me kind of act like I'm singing live and let me lip sync to one of each of those 2 tracks? And he's like, great idea. So once we got through the tracks and went down and put the 58 in front of my face, they put a little close-up on me, and I threw the mic, right in front of my mouth, and all of a sudden Tony got a big close-up, and Tony's looking at me going, man, you look like John. And I'm like, Tony, I've been telling you for the last 3 or 4 months, I sound a little bit like him. I look a little bit like him. I'm not as tall as he is, but, hey, we're you're in okay here, the same name and everything. I think we'll be all right. After the first gig, a lot of the pressure kind of wore off. And, for me, I'm a reasonably likable kind of person, and I want people to enjoy and like me. And so I made it, a point to want to interact with the fans and, you know, let them know that, you know, I was here and, you know, and very accessible. And you know, I'm a fan like everybody else. I just have to be the guy now singing these great songs.
Yeah, and they are great songs.
So the pressure kind of goes by, and then once John actually went and put a big Facebook post out there that said, hey, let's wish the new lineup of the Babys a huge amount of success, and, you know, commented he liked Not Ready, and, you know, and just kept at it a little bit. You know, every time he's talked to, he says, you know, these guys should have been doing it 15, 20 years ago. You know, they have my blessing. A lot of the pressure is kind of worn off from that standpoint. So, you know, I'm very appreciative of John being supportive.
Yeah, and I think also Jonathan Cain and Ricky Phillips have also put out stuff either on Facebook or in interviews where they said, yeah, God bless them. You know, have fun, guys, right?
We had Jonathan was actually reviewing the videos and the audio tapes of the auditionees, and so I think he'd selected me as well, and had mentioned that he wanted to actually write with us, you know, if the circumstances, you know, brought them about. But Journey's been, you know, I mean, they're still on the road, so you know, one of these days we'll be able to sit down. Ricky's become a very good friend. I see Ricky and catch him in sticks whenever I'm in town or whenever I'm in a town that he's visiting. He's always cool about leaving tickets and stuff. So we've become decent friends, and that's really cool. And really right when I was selected, he went and put together a little ditty with himself and Dave Amato playing guitar with myself and Tony, and we did a half set of Babys tunes at the NAMM show a couple of years ago, and kind of took a little 200-seat little area and tried to cram 600 or 700 people into it, which was really fun. So yeah, Ricky's been very supportive. Great guy.
Great guy, yeah. So you know, you've got Tony Brock and Wally Stalker as the two original members, and it's called the Babys. So I'll ask you the controversial question. You know, some folks will say, well, you can't call it that, call it something else. What's your take? I'm always of the impression that brand comes before band, and if you've got a brand, bloody well, you know, work with it and use it. But some fans don't agree with that perspective. What's your take on it?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think I'm right there with you. You know, Foreigner today is still Foreigner, even though the only member left is Mick, and he only plays half a set some of the time. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, you've got to have somebody that's a staple of the band, in my opinion. I think the reason why we're able to use Babys and why we should use Babys is, you know, those two gents were never out of the band. You know, right. The band broke up and moved on, and John went to, you know, his success, and Ricky's gone, and Jonathan's gone, and, you know, but these two guys are still there, and there's a music catalog out there, and people either know the name of the band or they certainly know the songs. And I think that's why, you know, we were able to leverage and use that, because, I mean, trying to come back with a new band with Tony and Wally without calling it the Babys, you know, it would be breaking in something completely brand new. I mean, we're already now a 30-year-old, you know, gone from the scene startup with this huge catalog. So we had to keep the band name and fought to keep that name, because I think it is that brand and that identity that, you know, hopefully will be able to push us over.
Yeah, and you know, you're right about Foreigner. I've seen them 3 times in the last year. 2 of those shows had no Mick Jones at it. And, you know, God bless them, they were fantastic. They were absolutely brilliant. So, you know, goes to show. Let's go back into your history. Years and years ago, 1990, if I want to say 94, maybe it's earlier than that, you did a song called Rock the Pond for the Mighty Ducks 2 soundtrack. And so my question to you is, how is it recording for a Disney product? Because, you know, it's got to be very safe. There can't be any sexual references or double entendres or drug. How was the experience of working on a Disney movie or a Disney soundtrack?
You know, it was definitely an experience. I'd worked with Disney back, you know, in the 80s, they had a group called Kids of the Kingdom, you know, that would go out into the park, and, you know, they had them all over Japan and Florida. You know, I live out here in California, so we did it out here in Cali. And so I was already associated with Disney. Rock the Pond actually came from when the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, their hockey team, came out, and so that was the theme song. So that song, you know, precluded the actual D2 soundtrack. So that song was called the Mighty Ducks of, or the hook was the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, Rock the Pond. And then I got a phone call from a gentleman named Bruce Healy from Disney saying, yeah, Michael Eisner wants you to sing the title track to the new D2 soundtrack, the D2 movie. We're going to do some major lyric changes. And I'm like, okay. I mean, it's really a cheesy lyric, you know, but it was really kind of funny digressing. They knocked that song down when they were trying to figure out what they were going to do from a theme perspective for the actual hockey team. They knocked it down to 5 levels of management, because the first 2 or 3 levels were, you know, bringing up things like, you know, we are the Ducks, we hit the pucks, kind of a thing, you know. But it really didn't work out. So I had a friend who was a 5th level manager called me up and said, hey, you know, I've got an idea, you want to go do it? And they were cheesy lyrics, you know, but it worked out well. I got to meet Michael Eisner several times. He liked the voice and wanted to fight for me to be able to go ahead and do the soundtrack. And when I got in there, yeah, there's always a little bit of bureaucracy that's going on, and Disney's like nobody else. You know, I mean, they're you know, they've got their fun things and, you know, little things that you got to step through. But we went in and recorded the soundtrack. They only really wanted to give me a guest artist contract and a rollover contract to do make it into the soundtrack. So I'm looking at them and saying, guys, you want to pay me, like, you know, it was literally $150 for the rollover to do it onto a soundtrack. And I'm like, you're going to pay me X, you know, amount of dollars to go ahead and lay this down for the movie, and you're going to roll it over? No, I'm not going to do this. I want to have at least 2 of these guest artist contracts. And that was the only thing that I've ever had to deal with Disney, is, you know, trying to fight for. They're very, very cost conscious. I'll just put it that way. So that was my only real run-in that I had with them. Had a great time doing it. Did a couple of voiceovers for a couple little things after that. But, you know, I still have a lot of great friends that work for Disney. It's, you know, it's an interesting company to work with. But I tell you, I had a great time meeting Michael Eisner. That was really fun. And you've heard the good and the bad about him. I had a great time with him. He was very good to me. So yeah, I had nothing but good experiences about Michael Eisner.
I can imagine. Now, you know, I'm up in Montreal, and we have the Montreal Canadiens, and of course, big hockey town. Do they still use Rock the Pond for the Ducks, or is that sort of gone?
You know, it fizzled. I think they used it for maybe the first 3 or 4 years, and they used it ad nauseum. I mean, it was, you know, at every puck drop, after every goal. It started the game off. You know, I mean, I used to my first 2 or 3 years probably did maybe 50% of each national anthem that was out there. So, you know, it was really kind of fun. I've got memorabilia from the Ducks, you know, going all the way back to the first game, which is fun. But yeah, they stopped using it after the 3 to 5 years. But when the Ducks won the Stanley Cup, they used it a few times during the games, which really kind of blew me away. I was working with a company at the point that had a suite there, so, you know, I'd turn around and there's my song, and everybody's looking at me going, "That's you, right?" Like, yeah, that was me.
They resurrected.
We had fun with it.
What a great song. Let's finish off with just the Babies here. What's the future? I mean, you did this album. It came out in June. Is that it? Is it one and done? Or is the band going to look forward to starting a new process of getting something out for next year or in 2 years? What's the future hold, other than just live shows?
You know, we would love to go and do another album. We had so many songs. When we laid this whole thing out, we had about 50 tracks that we're going to, you know, we were using to consider for the record. Then we narrowed those 50 down to 30. Then we narrowed those 30 down to 18. And we started saying we're going to track these 18 tunes and see where it goes. We're not going to do a double album, but we're going to at least, you know, try to get through that. We got through 13 of the songs, and then the 14th one being Not Ready. So we actually recorded 14 songs for that album. Distribution stated that, you know, we since we'd already released Not Ready as a digital, that they wanted to keep it off the record until the re-release of it. And then we had another song called When Life Goes Right that is now like the Asia Pac and UK single for the song. But yeah, I mean, there's songs that we actually organically were growing prior to Wally leaving that didn't make the record. That's why we fast-tracked everything to, hey, give us all your demos. Let's go figure out what we've got going on here. We'll arrange them, and then we'll come in and cut them. And in really, we cut and tracked everything in 6 weeks and mixed and mastered it in 2. So it was an 8-week whirlwind to get that record done. That, yeah, there's so much more music that's coming behind us. I mean, Joey's a great writer. I like to write. Tony still has, you know, a lot of songs, and there's still a lot of stuff in the vault that, you know, we babyfy a little bit, you know, and bring it a little bit current, but still retain that raw, you know, we want to keep the rock and the raw edge sound. Not so much the pop side of the Babies, I think, but they're really wanting to go towards the, you know, the Badco vibe, the free kind of Small Faces.
That's
and
good
we've got a lot of that stuff. That's a great direction. It's great to play live, you know.
I can imagine.
You get up there and you can rock it.
You know,
but yeah, for us, you know, first things first now is trying to get out on the road so that we could start, you know, kind of putting a little a little money in everybody's pockets so that everybody can live a little bit easier, and then that perpetuates a little bit more of a need and a desire from the fans to hear a little bit more and see a little bit. So it's kind of it's a vicious circle for us. Before we started creating the album, the booking agents were saying you need an album to go out and support, and then the record companies are saying, well, where are you playing? Well, we're kind of doing both, but so
welcome to the music business. Right, welcome to the music business. So, let's just remind folks to go check out I'll Have Some of That. And, of course, check out thebabiesofficial.com, the official website with all the tour dates and news and all that wonderful stuff. John, it's been an absolute pleasure.
I appreciate it, Mitch. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. And, of course, the fall is coming up, and so we should all get ready to rock the pond. And let's just hope the Montreal Canadiens do better than the Ducks this year.
There you go. Good luck there.
Thank you.
Enjoy it.
Bye-bye now.